Welcome back, guys. This is the Home Story Cup 9 Top 8 Qualifier, Top 8 Tournament. To explain real quick, if you've just tuned in, this is first off game number 5. It's the ace match between these two players in the semi-finals. 8 players were invited to play. 4 from Europe that qualify, 2 from Korea, and 2 from North America. And right now, we got the North American and the Korean qualifiers going at it here in the semi-finals. One of these players today will win a fully paid trip to Home Story Cup 9. The rest are simply invited and allowed to come, but it's at their own dime. Flights are really expensive, and if either of these players can win it all, they'll certainly enjoy attending. For now, though, spotting the bottom right corner of the map, currently tied up now with his opponent, it's the blue Protoss player, Stork. His opponent, though, on the bottom left, he's a monster, ladies and gentlemen, the red Terran player, Polt. So going into this series, I think a lot of us were favoring Polt to win this. It was so scary when Stork had taken the series 2-1, and it looked like game 4 just now. Like, there were some situations where it was like, is Polt even going to win this? The Ninja Base was a cute move that will be certainly hard to execute again. There's not enough time between these games to go back and watch replay, but if Stork looks at the resources gathered graph, he should have a pretty good idea what a 3-base Terran player looks like. So he may not have been physically able to see the 3rd base go down at any point during that game, or even in the analysis afterwards. He'll have a pretty good idea what the case was. But yeah, I don't know if he'll be able to pull that off on another map. This is a map that actually has more common from hidden bases, so Stork might be a little more inclined to scout. That being said, though, I'm just thinking about how this could play out a little bit. I mean, I'd say differently, and I want to say differently, but the reality is Stork's just been playing a really solid game, and we've seen it win. Like, his game styling, like, there's nothing to really critique. He's been on top of the game for a lot of these games, especially games 1 and 2 and 3. But even then, Polt, it's, again, the decision-making that really kind of catapults him forward. Oh, wait, shout out to Breb Starcraft, by the way. Thanks for that sub, man. But it's his decision-making. You know, the choice to be like, look, I've got a Protoss army barreling down my base. He's right outside my natural merry-go-round. What do? I load up 4 medevacs, and I go for a counterattack. You know, it's those sort of moments where you think, okay, a Terran player should play defensive in this scenario, but Polt says, screw it. I'm going to play offensive, and I'm going to win. But yeah, this is a map too where scouting is what's going to be very important. Reaper will try and do what it can. He checks to see if it's Nexus first, right off the bat. I like that. Of course, you kind of get a feel whether that's the case or not, whether the Mothership Core is there to shoot you in the face or not. But this is a very fast starport coming out of Stork here. In fact, you'll notice, guys, he's actually proxied it. There's nothing in base. Over here, yonder to the top left. I don't really like this move, if we're going to be quite frank. Not to be overcritical again, but this is something that Polt held off last game. It wasn't a proxy Oracle, but he had the production for it. 2 Marines at a time. If he went for a factory sooner, Polt might lose the game. But because he's got the 2nd barracks, okay, let me tell you the tale of basically what happens here a lot of the time, guys. More often than not, sadly, the Oracle will come here, and it'll pick off 5 Marines, right? And it'll be barely left alive. And the Terran player can never really produce enough Marines to get to the point where they can fight the Oracles. Because again, I mentioned it before, the magic number is 6. If you have less than 6, you can't win, bottom line. So this first Oracle will get here, and there will be 6 Marines out. The idea is, though, it'll kill maybe 5 of them before it dies, right? Then the second Oracle comes in, before there's 6 more Marines out. And that's kind of the way this plays out a lot of the time. But Polt's actually producing so many Marines right now, and he's not cut any for Marauders or anything quite so silly that this is actually not going to work out for Stork, I don't think. Now, granted, just because the first Oracle doesn't have a pathway to attack, 2 Oracles much stronger than 1. He can certainly bring this back for later. Natural base actually has no defenses in it. Ugh. And Polt's making Hellions right now. Definitely probably wishes this was a Widowmine. I think the Mule's actually the first thing to die this game, so we'll call it first blood, even if it wasn't. But Marines get on top of the Oracle. Unfortunately, it's way too fast. Do you guys remember, by the way? I'm talking specifically to the Terrans and the Protoss in the audience. Do you guys remember when this thing didn't have that speed boost? It was still deadly, but not like as scary as it is now. Because what just happened there is like it gets away. You can't stop it. 5 Marines right now. Okay, there we go. 7. You can actually deal with this. The Phoenix follow-up is what I find most interesting. What is he planning to do with this? There's because there's not gonna be medevacs out early, right? So the Phoenix is just gonna be like a scouting tool, I think. I don't know. Maybe buffer a little bit of damage, lift up a Marine. I guess that could be kind of cool because instead of 6, you only have 5. But I mean, 6 doesn't stop 2 oracles anyways. I don't know. It's weird to see the Phoenix there, but the Graviton Beam ends up being pretty useful in the end. Marines are getting pretty wrecked, but another oracle does go down, and this ends up trading a little bit better for Polt. Not overall, but in that one instant. He did retreat a lot of the SUVs out and kept them alive. Stork's got a probe up here. He may himself end up going for Ninja Base. Not quite sure if that'll be the case or not, but with 2 Stalkers on hold position and a potential force field, there's no Hellion run bys that are getting anything done. And that was the weird thing to me, like the fact that he went for the Hellion in the first place. Nice Widowmine shot, though, will pick off that one Phoenix, so he's really thinning out the air forces, and there's only 1 Oracle remaining. Yeah, I don't know. It's just I feel like this was a weird move to make out of Stork after seeing it fail specifically in the last game on Merry-Go-Round. But Storm, or not Storm, the Armor's on the way with a Robo, so we're not going to see Storm, sadly. But we are going to see more Phoenix produced. Now, this is something that's worth noting, guys. You see Phoenix versus Terran from time to time, and I think a lot of people, it looks weird, and it is a little bit weak to do. But I referenced it barely before when I was talking about Grubby having beat Joxi with a very similar build. But the strength of this comes from the late game. Leading up to it, you're not going to have a lot of Stalkers on the ground. You're not going to have a lot of Zealots in play, and a lot of this is because you put that gas towards the Phoenix and the Colossus. The money's expensive. But this is a map where I think this is actually an incredibly intelligent choice, because Polt's not going to be able to do something where you storm into a natural, bait the overcharge. You can't storm into the third or even up this ramp, because again, 1 force field will keep an infinite amount of Marines from ever coming up the ramp. Only a medevac will be able to bring anything up here towards the main. And what stops medevacs? Oh right, it's the Phoenix! So in most instances, I don't know, most instances you typically can't afford to play like this. Again, mostly because the storming, I shouldn't call it storming because it gets confused with side storm, but you know, that charging up the ramp with, you know, forcing the overcharge, sniping off a Nexus, you name it. And this is actually another really intelligent choice because again, while the Phoenix don't really do a ton of damage versus medevacs, it's the same sort of zoning mechanism that Mutalisks bring to the party, where they'll focus on them, they'll be the priority. The Hellion, by the way, is checking the ninja bases. I like this out of Polt, kind of like the alright, I just did this to you, I want to make sure you don't do it to me mentality. You'll find a pylon there in the top left, but there's really not much else. The Oracle from earlier is still alive, floating around the map. It will be actually really useful coming to the further fight. It does a lot of damage versus Marines. But yeah, between 1 force field and the Colossus, this ramp is not going to be the problem. He's going to have to focus on drops. It's not even a question of want, but the problem proceeds. Look, there's still Phoenix. Did Polt never find the proxy Stargate, by the way? No, he didn't.
Upgrade
okay.
Complete.
Proxy Stargate. But he's got his 3rd base up and running. Well, soon to be in a 2nd year. Not something you can typically afford to go for too early a lot of the time, but well, actually, it's not in view of it just yet. Oh, he's not researching or building though. This is gonna take a long time to die, but a pylon will eventually die to Hellion. Eventually, being the keyword there. But units are simming around the map, but this is kind of hard to deal with. This many Phoenix, they're gonna lift up the Marines. They die so fast. It's a messy thing to look at. And let's not forget they can pick off Marauders, medics, medevacs, you name it. The Oracle, by the way, right now is in detection mode because it's looking for Widow Mines to rip out of the ground with the Graviton Beam, but yeah, the unfortunate thing is, how do you deal with Mass Phoenix? Well, first, it's not Mass Phoenix, it's only 5. And a lot of the times, the sad case ends up being that Terran players kind of rely on the Protoss player making the mistake of flying over the army, but I'm waiting for the day where people start making Ghosts versus the Phoenix, man. Not only will the EMP stop them from being able to deal any damage with the ground forces because Graviton Beam will be shut down, but they deal bonus damage versus light. Phoenix are light units. I don't know, it's something I want to see, but it's not really cost effective. Either way, so just get some free kills for the time being. Revelation does get slapped down on top of this, so he knows exactly where the RB is, and if it's going to be a drop, it's not going to get in there very easily, sadly. Is this pylon actually going to go down? Like, he didn't warp in like 1 Stalker to save this? Like, I guess I still got the pylon over here, so it doesn't need it, but... Yeah, Hellions confirmed #1 building DPS next to Zerglings attacking rocks. But the Colossus have been revealed at this point. And even furthermore, guys, I was talking a lot about the Phoenix being able to snipe off some of the medevacs, keep them at bay. The other thing, too, and one of the big things, is they'll be able to soak up hits from the Vikings. If the Vikings are focusing down the Colossus, fantastic, but the Phoenix will shoot them down very quickly. They're not exactly bonus damage like Stalkers are, but they attack so quickly that Phoenix actually end up being effective versus the Viking count. And unless you have enough Vikings to one volley down the Phoenix, which I think Polt might end up having, these aren't fun to tangle with. But it's kind of this extra step that a Terran player has to do, where you've got to dance with the Phoenix before you can dive the Colossus. If you go too early, you're going to lose too many of your Vikings, and you won't have enough to follow through. Okay, finds the starport, he'll kill this. Actually, the Viking count is kind of scary. Just looking at 13 right now. Gonna pick off that Oracle, so no more nuisance in that regard, but this last revelation will last for a full minute. And this isn't where the army is. Stork has got to know this, though. You don't look at an army like this and say, okay, the Terran player just forgot to make medevacs, like Polt forgot to make medevacs. No. The army's up here in the north. He's ready to go for a quadruple drop into the natural, I imagine. And he'll try and bait out a fight here at the third to make sure that the Colossus can't respond. This is actually a really cool move. He's using the revelation as bait. Stork sees this giant army barreling forward, and it looks scary at first, but again, unless you actually take a second to look at this and realize there's no medevacs, you have to know that this isn't the actual army. No, instead the army's loaded up in 4 medevacs that are about to unload in the natural, and he's gonna snipe off that base. Polt, even if Stork responds, see, this is the problem, you have to respond perfectly or else Stork ends up losing his third as the consequence. Either way, so many Vikings ready to take a fight. He's backing away because you know what, the army has been kited into the wrong position. Probes are annihilated, Zealots are warped in, but quite frankly, with the mineral line positions, hold spot, and as well as stim pack, there's no way this gets cleaned up too easily. Now the Vikings are gonna, or sorry, not the Vikings, the Phoenix are gonna try and focus down the medevacs, but that kind of exposes the Colossus here in the middle of the map. Polt can't fight because he doesn't have medevacs, but he can snipe off the Colossus for damn sure. These things are gonna fall really hard. Storms come down, but the Nexus of the Natural has been taken care of. Actually, the Vikings are being way too sacrificed here, way too clumped up, but he gets the last Colossus, which means this army can fight if he wants to, but shouldn't, obviously. Natural base has not been dealt with either. He's got some more Zealots warped in here to the main, but this army has got stim, it's got medevacs, it's looking pretty darn good, and everything in the middle of the map was disposable to Polt. He's taken out so many Zealots with him, and he's got a defense at home. He's got a planetary fortress actually coming in for defense as well. But you know what? He can lift and go to that third. Instead, he's just going to kite the Zealots around, kite them down with them concussor shells. More Zealots being warped in for Stork, but these cost so many minerals. We do have feedbacks going down in the medevacs. That was a really smart choice, actually. But still, he's struggling to deal with the concussive shells. The Marauders are kiting so nicely. Polt is trading out so efficiently on this side of the map, but as he pushes forward, there might be an Archon waiting for him. He needs to get up. He needs to go to that third. He needs to... No, well, never mind. I take that back. More feedbacks going down out of desperation. He continues to kite with an army that has no health on it. He soon can't even stim. But still, the medevacs, as they get energy, they try to heal. Pushing through the left side of the map while this is going on, he picks off a couple Templar. He's got some new medevacs made, and this third base is not immediately in danger, but the army supply of Stork has just dwindled. This drop traded so effectively. Like, this defines cost efficiency, guys. Base is going to try to be reestablished, but Polt can't let this get to his head. He might think he's really ahead right now, but it's really only a temporary lead. Actually, no, you know what? I take that back. I won't even stand by this statement because I didn't check. He's got 3-3 and level 2 weapon upgrades on the way for his vehicles as well. So his army's not going to have an upgrade lead, which almost never happens. Like, when do you see a Terran player have 3-3 before a Protoss? He's got so much a big army lead at the moment. Now, granted, the Phoenix are still a nuisance, but he kills the one Zealot that was harassing his fourth. He's got a planetary fortress up, so counterattacks from Zealots are out of the question, and Polt is looking unstoppable moving forward. That being said, though, 40 drops coming in to snipe off that Nexus, which is being remade. You know, I think a lot of people, myself included, a lot of other pro players, they look at the Protoss and they're like, look, we got to break the Colossus, we got to break the Storms, we got to stop the Templar. But Polt looks at the game in a different way, and he says, I only see Nexus. There's these other blue dots that get in the way of me killing a Nexus. But he just goes for the Nexus, because look at this, as Stork retreats to the natural to defend, Polt stims in, takes the third. Good game with a base snipe will seal the deal. Polt takes the series 3-2 when he goes on to the finals.